And I think the world would fall apart if Emily got on Twitter. You know why?
I'm
Emily?
sure you'll tell me how.
It has to do with this week, though, the Imagists. Let's talk about you. You are really, when you really admit what you love, it's the long Nabokovian sentence.
Yeah.
And probably if I could turn you on to Faulkner, he'd be in there too.
Not so much, but kind of.
Right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so, Emily Harnett, I mean, here we are all talking about the glories of condensation, and you really love what we used to call the periodic sentence, late Henry James.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Twitter,
Oof.
not for you.
Yeah, it's a little too compressed.
Some
too
people
condensed.
have said, I guess I want to ask Allie and Amaris and Dave this. Some people have said jokingly about Twitter that it was anticipated by the Imagist revolution, that move from Victorian and Edwardian bloviating to this precision. The influence of haiku in the United States, which has always been around, that is to say that influence, really kind of predates this thing we have now where everybody tries to put things into something precise. Any comments about the relationship between this week's work and the state we're in, where everybody's trying to be? I know there's a lot of people, including Lily, who've thought about Twitter, and probably this is just ridiculous, but I just wanted to open up the topic. Allie, any thoughts about the Twitter sphere? And I'll watch Emily wince when you talk.
Well, I don't want to blow Emily's cover, but she is in fact on Twitter, and you should all follow her. I think it's the real Emily Harnett.
We're straying from our poems.
Are you mad about that? No. It's just cool, though. Somebody's doing
well, not for Emily, maybe.
Singing on top of spaghetti.
Blew my cover.
Bonnie Larson Steger, on top of spaghetti, all covered with cheese. I lost my poor meatball when Al Filreis sneezed. That's a rhyming poem. We don't do. Oh, Joe Massey. So much depends upon meatballs. Now, Joe just did. There's going to be a poem, Joe. Amaris, do you have anything wise to say about the relationship between the Imagist revolution and our new interest in the radical condensation of language? You can pass if you want.
Yes, myself not being on Twitter, I feel like this is the realm for Lily.
Okay. Lily's chomping at the bit because she's really thought about Twitter. Go ahead, Lil.
Well, the difference is access and who... well, there's a lot of differences. Corporatization is one. Like, there are a lot of ads on Twitter, and, like, it's been monetized as, like, an ad space. So that's, like, very different from... it's not unrelated to, like, taking a Gertrude Stein poem and turning it into a Hallmark card, like the roses, a rose is a rose or whatever. But it is, like, so that's an element to it. But then there's also, like, yeah, there's access. Like, anyone can be on Twitter. You don't have to get your poem published to be on Twitter. You don't have to be the kind of person who would have success in publishing in your time period to get to voice your opinion on Twitter. So that's, like, a pretty big difference. But, like, in terms of the restricted space of the language, like, that's a similarity, but that's like a
yes,
like you were saying, like that's like a common across a lot of different modes of
right,
forms.
and the comparison is superficial. I want to turn to Jason on this question, but I just want to throw in that I do a lot of tweets. I'm really interested in Twitter, and I think 80% of the tweets that get, do we say like the heart? Mm-hmm. We say like. 80% of the stuff that gets retweeted or liked or passed around and becomes hot, meme-ish, is stuff that's ridiculous cliche, the perfect turn of phrase, the perfect moment, and so much of it is exactly the opposite of what this group of poets wanted to do. They wanted to say the most unobvious thing.
Yeah, but yeah.
I mean, the apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. That's a fantastic tweet, right? But it's not the tweet that would get retweeted because it doesn't, like, clinch it. It's not a nail on the head kind of thing. And I may be unfairly generalizing about the best tweeting.
Yeah,
which can
because
be very open-ended and
right,
difficult.
there's politics, there's humor, there's weird Twitter, there's like many different channels and forms, and they all kind of cross over each other. But they're like, what's maybe similar about an analog to the poetry world is like there can be people who only use Twitter for like news and don't know that there are whole Twitter accounts that just tweet every word in the dictionary with which attached to the end of it or whatever. And like those are great.